Right, good evening everyone. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to do it without you, and that's a fact. So, as you can see, there's 8 of us here, 9 including myself.
Dogs.
So today we're going to do a 40-minute session on fish, how to prepare it, and how to break it down and cut it into fillets, and then identify some of the cuts that you get. So, fish. Working. So the topic is fish, breaking down and filleting. So a couple of things that we're going to explore in this session and some of the outcomes that we're looking to get at the end of the session is identifying 2 main types of fish, how to break down a fish and take the fillets off, and to break it down into the other parts. And what we'll do is we'll go through what those other parts are, and then how to use each part in a different scenario. So just before I get completely started, we're going to have to go through some work health and safety topics, beginning with emergency exits. Emergency exits. Down the back of the yard, there's a gate just by the garage, which you can exit into the street there. Alternatively, through the door here, out the front door and onto Hillcrest Avenue. There's also one down behind Caro there, which is a little bit hard to open because it's locked for the dogs, so don't try and go out that way. Toilets. If you do need the toilets, well, you need to know where not to go as well, because you don't want to get stuck somewhere.
All useful.
There you go. Toilets are inside, past the kitchen, first on the left. If you're really busting and someone is in that toilet, there's a toilet just here, but I don't recommend it because it's also a laundry. More a laundry than a toilet. There are some refreshments in the fridge there, namely beers, and there's a little bit more food. The kids haven't got to it inside. This presentation is going to be 40 minutes, so if you do need to get up and have a bit of a stretch midway through the presentation, by all means feel free. Lots of play equipment and a trampoline down there. Alright, moving right along. So what we're going to explore is types of fish. We're going to start off with 2 main types and then a third one, which I'm kind of throwing in because, let's face it, they really are 3. The first one, flatfish. Does anyone know what sort of fish that is? What else could it have been? What's a similar fish that's sole? Yep. Perch? No. The place starts with a P. It's also a flatfish. Then we've got roundfish, which is sort of the most common fish that you'll find in a fish shop around here. So yeah, snapper, mullet, blue eye, sort of a few. And then sort of more angular fish, which is got a flat head there. So that's more of a sort of triangle shape, so a little bit more difficult to fillet. You use a completely different technique. Do any of you buy whole fish or fish fillets, and why would you buy what it is that you buy? Jamie, do you ever buy fish?
Yes.
Yeah, well, what do you buy? Whole fish or fillets?
I normally buy fillets because I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to cutting up the whole fish.
Right. Johnny?
Usually buy whole fish.
Yeah.
So
You know what you're doing?
Yeah, I've got a rough idea. And you can tell if the fish is fresh. You know exactly what fish you're getting.
Yep.
You can use the other parts of the fish besides the fillets.
Yep.
It's probably cheaper overall, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Or yeah, it depends if you use the whole fish.
You said whole
Yeah.
fish,
Yeah.
Fish
Yeah,
stew,
they're the
fish
main.
curry.
Yeah. Stocks and that.
Yeah,
They're the
nice.
main reasons I buy them.
Okay. So a couple of things I've got to mention as well in this. We'll be giving out some feedback forms. So actually I might give them out now, just so that you can have them throughout the presentation. And there's some pens there as well.
Some rowdy audience
Rowdy
members.
neighbours,
I'm going
yeah.
to give that feedback.
So what I'd like you to do is just have a quick look through those feedback forms. James is going to hand out some pens as well, and as we're going, if you could sort of fill in a couple of bits and pieces, and then I'll give you some time afterwards to fill in the rest of it if you need it. I'll just hang on 2 seconds while Jamie's handing those out. There should be enough there for everyone. There's 8 there.
Oh, thank you. Oopsie daisy.
If you could not film me doing that, don't worry about it. Okay. So there's going to be another handout a little bit later on, but continuing on, I will be doing a demonstration shortly of different types of fish. Moving right along, I just want to give you a brief sort of overview of how to fillet a fish, and I'll just explain it. Alright, so we've got our chart here, which has 4 different pictures. The first one, taking the fish, holding it, as you can see, with the back towards the person filleting the fish, mainly yourself, and making an incision down through the head and then along the back towards the backbone, and then coming in from the front, turning the fish around, turning the knife into the belly and cutting up to release it from the backbone, and then drawing the knife from the backbone along from the head up to the tail. So I've got a couple of handouts, well, one handout here. Pass those around so that everyone's got a copy. Does everyone's pen work? Yep. Right, so throughout this demonstration, I've just got some knives here. I've got some implements. So I've got a pair of fish tweezers. Very important if you're going to be taking the bones out of the fish.
Are they the same pincers?
A pinch is what your wife uses to take her eyebrow hair out? No. Okay, and I've got a filleting knife as well. You can see that a filleting knife different from most other knives because the blade is quite flexible, like that, which gives you a lot more manoeuvrability around the backbone and around the ribs of the fish. You can almost get it to a 90-degree angle when you need it. I've also got a chef's knife, which is not flexible, and they are quite sharp. I've also got a paring knife. Now we might not be using all of these knives, but some of them, most of them, we'll definitely use, and some of them will come in handy, just depending on what sort of fish you've got. So we're going to move right along to the quick explanation of the sort of cuts that we're going to be looking at taking from the fish. Okay, so the first cut, well, one of the cuts will be the frame. So the frame of the fish is generally what we're left with after the fillets are taken off and all the meat is taken off. Sometimes if you're just taking the fillets, the frame will look like that, mainly without, we don't take the meat off the head, so it won't be a skeleton like that, there'll be an actual head on it. Second cut fillets, that's generally what you take off a salmon, and most places would then get rid of the rest of the fish. Or if you buy fillets from the shop, they can use the bones. Sometimes they give them to fishermen to use as bait to put in crab traps. Otherwise, they're probably just going to landfill. Another cut is the head, which we'll discuss the use of a bit later. And then we've got the collar of the fish, one of my favourite. And at the end, we've got the tail. So you can see, if you hadn't known before, there's quite a few different basic cuts that you can get off a whole fish rather than just the fillets. Alright, so let me just grab the fish that I've got out of the fridge here. So today I've got 2 different types of fish. I did want to have a flat fish and a round fish. The round fish that I was able to get is a mullet, so that's pretty much what it looks like. Very basic, fairly round fish. Then I did want to get a flat fish as well. Can you grab me a tea towel, please? Sorry. So I did want to have a flatfish. The difference being that from a round fish, you'll generally get 2 fillets, or you'll always get 2 fillets. And from a flatfish, you'll get how many fillets? 4 fillets, that's right. So just a quick thing, as a percentage of wastage, can anyone guess the percentage of wastage from a fish like that if you've just taken the fillets off?
40%.
Like 80?
80% wastage?
No, like
20%.
Yeah.
20% wastage, yeah. So 20%, roughly 20% wastage from a whole fish, from a round fish, and from a flat fish, which I can't really show you because I don't have one, it's roughly 50% wastage. Just in terms of what you could do with the rest of the fish if you buy a whole fish. I'm going to take this off just for hygiene purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with demonstration of how to fillet a round fish. So the round fish that we've got today, like I said, is mullet. Okay, so we've got our mullet. Like it says in the picture, easiest way to start is with the back of the fish facing you. Now, this is just one way to fillet a fish. There are more than one ways to skin a fish. Okay, so I'm going to start with my filleting knife, which, like I said, is quite flexible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up this fin here, just behind the head, and cut down into the fish towards the head. That's all meat there. So I could cut straight down, but then I'd be missing all the meat that's sort of just behind the head and the fin. So cut down at an angle, like so, until we reach the backbone. And then the way I like to do it, and like I said, this is just one way to do it, different people will have different methods. Turn the blade of the knife in and just gently drag it down the spine of the fish, holding the knife blade on an angle down so you're only hitting the backbone. If you hold the knife at an angle up like that, you're more than likely going to come through the fillet and ruin it. Or if you don't come all the way through, you leave a lot of meat on the bone.
What's to stop you going through the bones, Jan, when you carry the angle down?
The bone? The bone is quite hard. So, cutting, you might cut into it, but that way, if you feel that you can't move the knife any further down the fillet, then you can just lower the angle of the knife, release a little bit of pressure with your hand, and then you can continue cutting down the spine. So we'll just continue doing that all the way down to the tail and out, and then we got a fairly nice fillet. And then we're going to turn the fish over, and we're going to do the same thing on the back, cutting down into the fish all the way down to the backbone. And then again, blade down towards the end of the fish, tail of the fish. Oh, that wasn't meant to happen. Anyway, I might do it this way, just because it's easier for me. Making sure to hold the fish firmly, but not too firmly, because the flesh is quite soft and sometimes will break up and get a bit mushy, and then it just doesn't look so great when you cook it. Okay, so there we've got 2 fairly nice looking fillets of mullet. We've got most of the frame, the bones, and we've got the head. Now on a larger fish, what we could do is take the wings off, which means sort of cutting into the gills. Might just change to the chef's knife for that. is release just the back from the head. So there we've got the head. The two collars, in this case from the mullet, it's a fairly small collar. Larger fish like a blue-eye cod or a barramundi, very nice to eat. The frame and the fillets. So 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of the fish. So we can use all those parts. The frame generally we can use in a soup or a stock. Excuse me. The wings, like I said, really nice to eat. Also quite fatty, so really quite tender. Really nice on the barbecue. Fillets, uses fillets. And the head can be really good as a soup base. So that's our round fish. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get a flat fish like I wanted to, but I did get a John Dory which is flatter than the round fish, which we'll prepare in a bit of a different way. So what I'm going to do is, from the head of the fish, lift up the sort of bony bit at the back, cut down again like I did for the round fish, all the way down to the backbone. And then this time, instead of going all the way through with my knife, I'm just going to cut along the spine, along one side of the spine, putting a little bit of pressure on that fillet of the fish, which makes it tighter, which makes the skin tighter, which makes it easier to cut. Just a little bit of pressure and you'll see the skin will kind of split open a little bit. So, and we run the knife all the way down, just the tip of the knife into the fish along the bones. And you can actually feel the bones on the inside of the fish hitting the tip of the knife. And then what we're going to do is follow those bones all the way in, making small cuts as we go, running the blade of the knife all the way down just following the bones so that we don't take off too much, we don't leave too much meat on the bones. One nice fillet of John Dory, and as you can see there, it's come quite close to the bones, not much meat left on there. I'm quite happy with that. I don't want to go to the other side and ruin my reputation. Let's try it.
You want to drop the silica?
You can't afford me, mate. Second side of the fish is always a little bit harder, just because you've already taken the meat off this side, so it sits quite flat, whereas before you had a nice round surface to work off. But this time we're going to go backwards. So we're going to start at the tail end and we're going to work our way up to the head. So again, putting a little bit of pressure on the fillet, starting at the tail. And then once again, slowly making cuts, following the bones.
Can you feel the bones on the first cut?
You can feel the bones on the first cut, yeah, definitely. As long as your knife point has gone in far enough. Not that the bones don't go all the way to the end, but obviously the more contact your knife has with the bones, the more vibrations you can feel through the handle. just making small, short cuts. If you go too gung ho, you'll probably make a mistake. And if you're working in a restaurant situation, obviously you want as much yield out of each fish as possible. At home, it's probably not too bad. But again, fish is not that cheap, so you want to make sure that when you get those fillets off, you get as much meat as possible.
So if you don't have a special bending knife, can you use something else?
You can use something else. Yep, you can use a boning knife. You can use a boning knife, or sometimes I prefer to use a little paring knife.
Is that because it's
Just because it's got quite a thin, narrow blade, and also you've got a lot of control over it because it's quite a short blade. Whereas with something like that, if you're using just the tip, you got a lot less control over it. So yeah, for some fish, I might start with a paring knife and finish with either a boning knife or a chef's knife or a fillet knife. And at the end, that's what we have with the John Dory. Again, the John Dory head is really good for stocks and soups. Any white fish like this, really good for stocks and soups. Orange fish like salmon, not so great because they are very oily, but can be used for other things.
What's the waste with a flatfish?
The waste with the flatfish, I told you before, you weren't listening?
50% figure.
Yeah.
So is that 50% in weight or 50% as in usable product?
Usable product, yeah.
50% waste of usable product with flatfish.
Mm.
So you just said
Well, yeah, 50%, well let's say 50% waste is what people generally don't eat. But that's like saying if you kill a cow and only eat half of it, and you can only eat the meat, then you've wasted 30%. But you can use the bones for other things, you can use the internal organs for other things. So it's only waste because people aren't used to eating the other bits.
so you can use the whole fish essentially for your purposes.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, people in Asia have been making fish sauce out of the fish sauce out of the guts, like fermenting the guts of fish, using the heads on a barbecue, which is delicious, depending on the size of the fish, obviously. And just using, you make stock out of the bones. People grind the bones down using pottery, using china. So there's many different things that you can do with it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we can do with the fillets. So with the fillets, we have here of the mullet. What do people mainly do with fillets?
Grill them?
Yeah.
Grill them?
Right.
Yeah, pan fry them? Cut them? Yeah, okay. So that's the most common uses. Head, what would you guys do with that?
Stuff.
Boil them.
Curry.
Yeah. Soup, curry, yep.
If
Some
you got-
fish,
Sorry, if you got time and effort with the heads, you can do what Nealon does with the eyes and make fish eyes and stuff like that.
fish eye chips.
Yeah, chips out of the fish eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like
and
a
there are
raw
some
pack of
fish
fish
like a monkfish that you can actually take the meat from this section,
Oh,
from
wow.
the cheek, which is really delicious.
How big's a monkfish?
Well, anywhere from like that to
Yeah, right.
yeah.
My
So
mum would barbecue that and just eat that whole thing and just suck out the whole some fish. That's
I love it when your mum comes to wherever I'm working. She always orders the wings. Then we've got the collars. So collars again, these ones are quite small, but you can see a picture of the collar here. It looks like it's been either deep fried or roasted. Probably an Asian restaurant, I'm gathering, by the bamboo, by the banana leaf. So these are really delicious, and people, the fishmongers pretty much give them away at the fish shop. We bought a couple last week. We buy four large double bits like that for $6. And
Heaps,
sometimes
mate.
they can weigh as much as the fillets.
Yeah.
So you can essentially get a whole meal
$6.
for $6, or the pro TV for $6. Yeah, there's a few bones in it, but you know what?
There's a few bones.
There's a few bones in here as well. So, you know, nothing stopping you eating that as opposed to those. Or even when you get the whole fish, keeping the collars, freezing them down, and using them for another time. And then we come to the last bit, the frame, soup or a stock. Use it for sauces. You can freeze it down in ice cube trays, which means it's easily kept and reheated another time for a soup.
So you just boil it down, do you?
It's exactly the same way that you would make. I'm not sure how familiar you are with making a bone broth.
I live with two vegetarians, so no, not really.
Right, okay.
Chicken stock. What about if you fried little ones and used them?
Well, if you had sardines and you can be bothered to take the fillets off the sardines, yeah, the bones being very small and very brittle. If you flour them a little bit of rice flour and then deep fry them, you can eat them like chips. They're absolutely delicious. Also, if you cure sardines or anchovies, then generally if you cure them with acid, like make like an escabeche, then you can generally eat the bones after you've left them in that solution for a couple of days because the acid just breaks down the bones.
I'm assuming you're not talking about hypochloric acid.
No, acid from an escabeche, which would generally be some kind of vinegar or lemon juice or onion or tomato pulp, any kind of acidic food. Yeah. You could use hydrochloric acid. I
Not
wouldn't.
recommended.
Living with two vegans, you probably don't know how to what's good and what's not. In terms of, you know, cooking fish.
It's not my fault.
No, well,
No,
that's
fine.
debatable. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits. Can anyone see now the benefits of buying a whole fish as opposed to fillets, Carolyn?
You can use all of it, and it would be cheaper overall than if you just bought fillets, which are ridiculously expensive in Australia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Not all fillets are ridiculously expensive. Like if you bought fillets of mullet, a whole mullet would cost you maybe $4. And it's not a bad eating fish. But if you bought it whole, then if you bought fillets, then yeah, you have to pay for someone to spend the time filleting it. And then what do they do with the
Waste.
With the waste, with what they call waste.
Yes.
What are the benefits of buying just fillets?
Ease.
Ease, quick, yeah. If you're short on time, let's face it, who's not short on time these days?
If you're not very skilled at that.
Well, buy a couple of mullets. They're pretty cheap, and even if it doesn't look pretty, you're just eating it at home. You can still eat it. Yeah. Alright, so
Just gotta get the second knife.
does anyone have any questions about what I've done so far?
How much would you expect to pay for a decent knife to cook up a fish?
Well, it kind of depends on how much you're willing to pay.
How long is a piece of string?
Yeah, pretty much. Look, a knife like that. I
Well,
don't
for the
remember.
filleting, the fish, the bendy one.
The bendy one,
I've got one.
that's pretty much a garden variety bendy filleting knife. So you're probably looking maybe like $90 to $100. But it's been a long time since I've bought one. So maybe Johnny or Gus could.
I think Ireland is 200.
Oh, really?
But there's like you can spend hundreds, like depending on the steel and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is a Victorinox. It does the job just as well as
I think you get them for about
60.
Victorinoxes,
Yeah, top in the market. But it's kind of one of those things like it depends who's using it. You know, it could be a $20 knife in the hands of a professional, or it could be a $600 knife in the hands of someone who's never used on it. The results are going to be vastly different. Yeah. So, no other questions at this point? Alright. What I might do is just take a quick 2-minute break. Stop recording for a second.